What do you make of this comment? Al-Sisi hasn't even come out and officially said, yes, I'm going to run for president. Does this give us a big hint?
Yes, and I think he's by a long way the most popular candidate. You only had one other person put their names forward. It's very likely that he will come out and say he is standing, and once he does, I imagine it would be a landslide victory.
Is this pretty transparent? Because we also talked about Russia having trying to make an arms deal with Egypt. Is this transparent, or is there a lot of things working behind the scenes where Russia is trying to lift its seat of power, so to speak, in the world?
No, absolutely. They're both looking to various allies. This is part of the long pivot of the Americans leaving and creating a vacuum. And within that vacuum, the people who seek to fill it are the Egyptians looking for other alliances, and the Russians equally looking to make deals with various countries. For example, it's noticeable that this weekend the Saudis will ink a deal with the Pakistanis to do with security and diplomacy. So as the Americans get out of the region, there are lots of reshaping of these alliances.
What can we sort of expect? Because you talked about a vacuum being created. People are sensing that America is not going to be as engaged. Is that a right sense, or are we just seeing a bit of a backup, but that America still plans to be quite involved in the Middle East and the world as a whole?
I think it plans to be as involved as it can be, given that there's very little political will to be heavily involved. But as it seeks to go, you have all of these other players trying to make their mark. And of course, the problem with that is that these alliances can go in different ways and sometimes can go against American interests. The Americans have provided the Egyptian army with so much money over the last 3 decades, and they've done that to make sure that the peace deal with Israel remains. Now, if other players come in, it might be that peace deal is renegotiated and the money is pulled back.
Of course, Russia being mentioned with Syria, for example, came together with China to say, no, we do not want to see any kind of strike, any kind of resolution. Even condemning Syria has been difficult for the Security Council. What does this say about Russia's position in the Middle East?
Well, you're right to say that they don't want a resolution. Sadly, they don't want it in the other sense of the word, which is to have any end to this endless grinding stalemate. The Russians, of course, are very concerned about the port at Tartus. Their only naval base outside of the post-Soviet space is on the Syrian Mediterranean. So that is a huge concern for them. And they have tried very hard to support their main Arab ally, the Assad regime, even, sadly, over the dead bodies of the Syrians.
With us again, our chief columnist for The National, Faisal Al-Yafi, is here to discuss this particular controversy. Should we be surprised, though, at all, that this has turned into a bit of a controversy?
Well, not given the Lebanese Twitter sphere. The Lebanese Twitter sphere gets very angry about these things, and as the New York Times journalist Guy Pianijani pointed out, that is not the Twitter sphere that you want to be provoked. But there are two very serious points about this. And the first is that the Lebanese don't have a government. The Lebanese have not yet formed a cabinet 8 months after the last round of elections. They have a civil war raging next door, and it's not clear that this is the biggest problem that the country faces. The second point is that this discourse has sort of come about that what Jackie Shamoun somehow did has harmed the reputation of Lebanon, but the body of Jackie Shamoun is not owned by the Lebanese state, so it's unclear how anything she does in her private life can in any way impact the reputation of the country.
Let's listen to what she said, because our Nick Payton-Walsh was able to have a chat with her and to ask her about this controversy. And we're gonna go to her. She was in Sochi, obviously preparing for her race, and wants to be paid attention to just for her skill on the slopes. This is what she had to say about the controversy.
Do you now wish you'd never gone to the mountains that day for that photo shoot?
No.
You still would have done it?
I mean, I wish the making of wouldn't go out.
Right.
But I don't regret doing the calendar.
An exclusive there with Jackie Shamoun, who is in the midst of a controversy, of course, for the nude pictures or the semi-nude pictures she took on the slopes long before the Olympics. You make the point that Lebanon does not own her body, but she is representing Lebanon, and these pictures obviously had nothing to do with the Olympics, except for that they were in the snow with her skis, what she is known for. And she herself apologized for it. Are you surprised that she apologized? Because there she said she might have done it again if if she was asked about it in the future.
Yeah, well, I think when you've had such an outpouring and you're in the middle of an elite competition, you probably just want to dampen the speculation down. The point about her, about this not being about the Lebanese state not owning her body is an important one. As much as it is true that she is an Olympic athlete today, she was not an Olympic athlete in those photographs. So what she does in the past, what she did in her private life, even if it was in a public sphere, is nothing to do with the Lebanese state. And the very fact that these Lebanese politicians are coming out talking about that rather than about having an elite athlete at the Olympic Games shows, frankly, how out of touch they are with their own country's problems.